Welcome to the Royal Tax Podcast with your hosts, Megan Templeton, Royal Legal Solutions Consulting Attorney, and Royal Legal Solutions CPA, MBA, and CFO, Pete Schindele. Each week, they talk about how to take your tax and financial strategy to the next level and learn how to build and scale your real estate investing business in a way that maximizes your returns and minimizes your taxes. This is for informational use only. For direct questions, please contact us or your local tax CPA accountant.
So guys, today what we are going to be covering off on at the very end is going to be some of those questions. As we have more questions, make sure to write those into the chat. So if you have more questions as we're going through today, just dump them into the chat. Don't worry about if it's like perfectly spelled or anything. We just want the chat to be like our database of questions, of who has what questions, where's the curiosity at. Today we're going to be talking about land trust tax implications. Pete was meant to present on it this today, but I will be taking over it today. I'm going to do as good a job as I can. Anything else that I don't know, we will leave for Pete, for everybody to contact Pete about whatever those remaining questions would be. But again, let's dump them into the chat, and that way we have all of our questions saved there. So again, so this is Pete. He's our resident CPA, MBA, and fractional CFO. So if you're a business entrepreneur or you're somebody who is getting into that level of investment where you're like, wow, my financial intelligence around, my cash flows, my debt servicing, et cetera, is starting to become a place where I'd really like some help to be able to dial in, to put in best practices there. Pete is a guy that's going to be able to help you streamline how your financials run with your business to have better intelligence, business counseling for how to grow that business with his MBA background, and also how to save the most money on taxes with his CPA background as well. So when we're looking at land trust, guys, what we're really focused on here is this piece that we would typically refer to as our freedom temple, right? So the way the freedom temple works is that it works first that you just read it from top to bottom of what's the most important things to focus on. Your first two are all about making money and saving money, because the name of the game is not what you make, it's also what you keep. And so the first thing that takes money from you is your taxes. So first you have to be able to create the money, and that's your wealth creation. Second thing you have to do is protect it from taxes. Now to be able to keep your money, what you need is asset protection. And the asset protection makes it so that way people can't take your money from lawsuits. So the way that we do that is we create anonymity around the ownership of the assets. And then what we do is we compartmentalize and separate out the liability from all of the assets. We isolate every single asset. So if there's a lawsuit against one asset, they can't go after the other assets. And then lastly, we use insurance to protect us against most things most of the time. Insurance is our best first line of defense, but we don't depend on profit-seeking corporations to protect us when we can protect ourselves using LLC structures and other structures to take us from that 90% protected to 100% protected. After that, what we're looking for is making sure that we're streamlining all of our systems and processes so that way we can better leverage our time, because the more time that we're able to save, the more wealth we're able to create. Wealth, not just in terms of money, but also time with your family, time with your kids, the vacations and hobbies that you might want to be doing. Lastly, we look at legacy planning, which is, I've done all of this great work to be able to create this amazing life for myself. I care about what happens to all of my stuff and where it's going to go to take care of the people that I love in my life after I'm gone. And that's what the legacy planning is all about. It's all about being able to say, I can then control who is going to get what money and when, and what's going to be in best and highest service to my children and my family after I go. And that's where the estate planning and legacy planning comes into place. For today, what we're going to be focused on is going to be this piece regarding the anonymity of the asset protection there. And then we're going to be doing that with the land trust, of course. All right, cool. See if I can clear this annotation here real quick. Okay, so what is a land trust? And a land trust is a kind of revocable trust. So there's two types of trust. If you've watched our trust masterclass, you know there's actually multiple different kinds of trust. There's revocable, irrevocable, and statutory trusts. We have our masterclass on that. If you've missed it, ping inside of the chat. We can go ahead and get you a link to that masterclass, or if you reach out to us, we can get you that. But a land trust is a type of revocable trust. We use it to hold real estate and real estate related assets. It can actually hold any type of property, right? So it's not just about land, right? It can hold any type of property, including personal property. So it could hold your boat, it could hold your cars, could hold anything in that vein. So what kind of taxes do you get if you're using land trust? Land trusts, first of all, are primarily used for privacy and asset protection. These types of revocable trusts are also used for probate avoidance when they're used as like a living trust as part of your estate plan. For the purposes that we use it for, we're looking for privacy inside of our asset protection plan. So the land trusts obscure who owns the piece of property. So if anybody ever comes to look to sue you, they can't find out anything that you own. When it looks like you don't own anything, when they come and look to try to sue you, you're not the person that they're going to sue, right? They need to be able to know up front that they're going to get paid if they're successful with a lawsuit. And if it looks like you're not going to be able to pay them if they win, then they go to sue somebody else.
Want more information? Join our community groups that exist to provide a space for like-minded people on a similar journey to learn, share, and network with real estate investing professionals and entrepreneurs. We meet weekly for an hour in Zoom to offer knowledge and accountability. Be sure to grab the link in our show notes.
So the question is there any tax implications to the land trust? And it says it can depend. It depends whether you structure the land trust as a revocable trust or an irrevocable trust. And I said before, we're always using land trust inside of Royal Legal Solutions as a revocable trust. And specifically why we're doing that is because we're not using them for any other purpose besides the anonymity. So the great things that we use for revocable trusts is that they can be amended at any time by the grantor. So there's no restrictions on when you can amend it. They're treated as disregarded entities for tax purposes. So for IRS, it's as if they don't exist, right? So there's no additional complications in citing the taxes. There's not even the necessity to get an EIN number for a revocable trust. It's not required to file any returns. And when you remove assets into any disregarded entity, especially a revocable land trust, there's no tax consequences. There's no triggering event that says, hey, we're going to have any type of income associated with the movement of this asset from myself into the revocable land trust or from my LLC into the land trust. So if you needed to file a tax return for a land trust, you said, hey, well, I want to use an irrevocable trust, right? I might be located in California, and what I can afford to put in for asset protection is one irrevocable trust. That's the only times that we've actually used irrevocable trusts for these types of asset protection vehicles. So if you are using it as just the revocable trust that we use just for anonymity purposes, which is our bread and butter of what we do inside of Royal Legal Solutions, then there's no tax filing, there's no tax consequences. If you're the kind of person that says, or your situation where it makes sense to say, hey, actually, I'm going to use this land trust, but I'm going to use it as an irrevocable trust, now you have to start thinking of it as a business entity, right? So what does that mean? It needs to get an EIN number. It needs to have a bank account. It needs to have a set of books. It needs to file a yearly tax return. It needs to file a K-1 to say that it distributed money to you as a beneficiary of the trust. So there's these other pieces here that you can see that we have listed up on the slide that says, hey, here's all the things you're going to need to do if you're using the trust as an irrevocable trust. The only reason you would ever use the trust as an irrevocable trust is because you're trying to get asset protection and anonymity inside of a single trust structure. Of course, you can see here the downside of combining both of those inside of one entity, the asset protection and the anonymity, is that you end up having to do a lot more operationally, right? You're talking about extra bank accounts, tax returns, K-1s, et cetera. And that's why we typically choose to use the revocable trust, because we want things to stay more streamlined, right? We understand that there's a lot of operational load if you start using irrevocable trusts. But if you only had one asset and you're located inside of California and it's just like your primary residence or something like that, it could make a lot of sense to use an irrevocable trust. Great, guys. So that is what we have in preparation for just the key tax events that we have regarding irrevocable trust. Is that something you're interested in? Go to the link right here, go.royallegalsolutions.com/free consult. We'll drop that into the chat as well too. And that's a great place to schedule that follow-up call for everybody. So real quick, guys, just coming off of following up on some of the questions that we had come up during the presentation, or some of the questions that we had came up in the very beginning of the session. One was a question of like, who should be trustee? My opinion is that you should always have an attorney be the trustee of any of your trusts. One, because it's not very expensive to do. We offer an unlimited nominee trustee service for $500 a year. It means we'll be your trustee on anything you have, from LLCs to land trusts to et cetera. And that way you can afford to be able to have a professional trustee service that has the protections of a law firm. So that way, if anybody ever asks us, we actually can't tell them. It's protected by the attorney-client privilege, which is a privilege that only exists with the attorneys, if an attorney is used there. And also attorneys have a duty, right? So we have insurance policies and we have professional responsibility duties that if we break, they strip away our licensure to be able to watch out for your best interest. So that's the way you're able to protect yourself. Say, hey, how do I get the best anonymity protection? I use an attorney. How do I get the best service using my trustee? Well, it's a professional company that is there that's commonly servicing and aiding me in any type of title transfer issues that I might have coming up. And then how do I make sure they don't steal my stuff? Well, it's because they immediately get put out of business if they were to do anything that was untoward, right? There's also some things in there you can know about, like looking at like, who do you trust? It's like, what's their track record, like total number of people they help, et cetera. That's why I think it's better. I personally don't trust individuals. I trust companies, because companies have people that get paid on salary that operate off of SOPs. And that's the way I like to be able to ensure that I'm going to have stability in all of my relationships. So I think that covers off on the trust questions that Chris and Lillian had raised earlier. I'm wondering here as we go through the chat, if anybody has a question that they had flagged here in the chat that they want to talk about and raise their hand, please, and let's go through some of these questions.
Thank you for listening to the show today. If you're feeling overwhelmed with taxes as they relate to your real estate business and investments, or you're unsure if you're doing your accounting correctly, fill out our 5-minute quiz. With the information from this quiz, you'll schedule a meeting with a Royal Legal Solutions advisor who will provide you with powerful tax-saving strategies on your first call. Go to www.royallegalsolutions.com/tax to fill it out.